Shavua Tov, everybody. Let us get started here. Hold on, we'll turn on the lights. Okay, tonight's topic, we're going to see a text from the Talmud that is about a friendship breaking down. And in the course of that, of the story, the Kadusa Levi, who we've been studying now for over a year, is going to give his take on it. And through it, we'll understand the power of perspective in relation to relating to God. So here's the background of these two friends in the Talmud. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish are their names. These are two rabbis of the Talmud who are study partners. And they're study partners up until this moment where their whole friendship breaks down. And just to give you some background, Reish Lakish, we learned in the Gemara, was a bandit. He was a robber before he was a rabbi. And then Rabbi Yochanan, finding him, or rather Reish Lakish found Rabbi Yochanan, and ultimately Rabbi Yochanan convinced him to leave his ways of being a bandit and come and learn Torah with him. So that's the background of these two rabbis. And I'll read you the story in the Talmud first. This is in Baba Metzia 84a. For those who are curious where it is, this is how the story goes. And then we'll read the Talmud, and then we're going to read the Kadusa Levi, again, our mid-18th century Hasidic teacher. We'll read his take on it. So here's how the story goes in the Talmud. It says, one day the rabbis of the study hall were engaging in a dispute regarding this question. Regarding a sword, a knife, or a dagger, a spear, or hand sickle, at what point are they susceptible to ritual impurity? This is the question of the Talmud. That is to say, at what point is the work of creating such things as a sword or a knife completed? The Talmud says from the time that their manufacture is done. And when is that? Rabbi Yochanan said from when one puts these items into the fire in the furnace. Reish Lakish disagreed. He says it's from when one scours them in water. And then Rabbi Yochanan said to Reish Lakish, a bandit knows his banditry. That is to say, Reish Lakish, you were an expert in weapons when you were a robber. So, of course, your opinion would be correct because you know about swords, whereas I, who was never a robber, do not. The Talmud continues. Reish Lakish explodes at Rabbi Yochanan, and he says, what benefit did you provide me, bringing me into the Beit Midrash? When I was a bandit, they called me rabbi. They called me my leader, my master, because he was presumably the leader of his gang. Here too, Reish Lakish says, they call me rabbi. So his question is, what benefit did you give me? There I was called master. Here I'm called master. He's really hurt by what Rabbi Yochanan said. And then Rabbi Yochanan says, the benefit I provided you is that I brought you close to God under the wings of the Shekhinah, under the wings of the divine presence. That's after that story, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, their chavruta is done, and they no longer. It's a very kind of sad ending for them. The Kadusa Levi is curious about the story and curious about what Rabbi Yochanan means when he says, "I brought you under the wings of the Shekhinah." Also, Shalom Marvin, my mom, Elaine and Steve joining us in Florida, Yochev and Bruno. I'm glad you're all here. So now the Kadusa Levi. He says, "Levaer ma'amar Chazal. Damar Reish Lakish the Rabbi Yochanan ma'ahane li. Hatam kareli Rabbi, hacha kareli Rabbi." So regarding the story, when Reish Lakish said, There they called me rabbi, and here they call me rabbi. What good have you done for me? Amar le ahanet lech de akrivach tachekan shechina. Rabbi Yochanan said, the good I've done for you is that I brought you close under the wings of heaven. Lichora. Yipale al tzadiko shel olam Reish Lakish. Sheyomar kazeh ma'ahani li. So says the Kadusa Levi, one should be astounded at Reish Lakish's words. What good have you done for me? V'hanireh de Reish Lakish migodel nishmato gami lo have legabe Rabbi Yochanan haya oved et Hashem. He says, and Reish Lakish, who had a great soul, even if he was not with Rabbi Yochanan, he would have been serving God. So we just said that he was a bandit. So what do you mean, Kadusa Levi, that he would be serving God even as a bandit? What does that mean? Ham Shalom Nora. Glad you're here. So dehaya oved b'midotav shehaya bo mikodem k'minat hagzalim. Rather, he would be serving God with the characteristics that he had before when he was a thief. What do we mean? Dehu ka'as v'chema v'sina, which in these characteristics are anger and hate. Uva avodah laHashem haya oved Hashem b'midot elu lichos al ovrei ritzono yitzbarach ulakarev hakol laHashem yitzbarach b'midat cha'as. And when he was a thief, says the Kadusa Levi, he would serve God through these characteristics, hating those who transgressed God's will and bringing them close to God through the characteristic of hate, of anger. I just want to pause for a second. This is a very open-minded, I think, and kind of broad idea about serving God. The Kadusa Levi he's explained that even a bandit, even a robber here, can be serving God through the characteristics of a robber. It's not great. Remember, we just said that there is going to be some benefit, and it's going to be different to being closer to God, being under the wings of the Shekhinah. But he's just said that the characteristics of a robber, that being hate and anger, this is how Reish Lakish was serving God, and it was an honest service. Only it was dark. His service to God was through anger. That is to say, when he saw people, you can almost imagine like Elijah. Elijah in the Tanakh also serves God. There's a lot of angst and hatred toward those who go against God's will. Loving God so much that when you see somebody disrespecting God's name, disrespecting God's law, you're full of anger. That is the characteristic of a thief: anger, hate, mad, like being angry. And then he took that and was able to serve and would serve God through those characteristics, according to the Kadusa Levi. Umechamat shehaya etzel Rabbi Yochanan, and when he then came close to Rabbi Yochanan, when Rabbi Yochanan took him into the Beit Midrash, into the house of study, hidricho b'hadracha zeh lahadricha olam ulakarev hakol laHashem yitzbarach b'midot tovot b'shalom. He taught him to see the world in such a way that he would bring them close to God with characteristics of goodness and peace. Zesha Amar Reish Lakish the Rabbi Yochanan. So this is what Reish Lakish meant when he said to Rabbi Yochanan, what good was it for me? Hatam kareli rabbi, hacha kareli rabbi. Peirush, that is to say, so when he said there they called me rabbi and here they called me rabbi. That is to say, Ani hayiti oved Hashem, gamilo hayiti etzlacha. I would serve God just fine if I wasn't with you. Only I would do so from a place of anger and from a place of hatred. Because these are the characteristics of robbers. So now we understand a little better what he meant with this statement. What good is it for me? Hatam Kareli Rabbi. There they called me Rabbi. That is to say, Gam Shahayiti Oved Hashem Yitzbarach, Bamidot Shehem Etzel Gazlanim, Gam Ken Kareli Rabbi. There I served God just fine. And here you are not allowing me to shake myself of that. Remember in the story, he got so upset because he thought he had amended his ways. And Rabbi Yochanan brought his past back up, that which he was trying to teach him away from. There they called me Rabbi. And there I would serve God from a place of hate and anger, hating those who went against God's will. V'lazeh hashiv lo Rabbi Yochanan. So to this, Rabbi Yochanan responded, Ahanet lach da'akrivach tacha kanfei hashchina. The good I've done for you is that I've brought you under the wings of the Shekhinah. Ratzal Omar, that is to say, lahadrich ha'olam be'imrei noam v'tov, in order to direct the world with words of goodness and kindness. V'zot lo haya lecha mikodam. And this you did not know how to do before me. What I love about this teaching is it shows us two different perspectives when it comes to serving God, when it comes to relating to others in their service of God. That is to say, from a place of loving God, of loving Torah, of loving mitzvot, you could end up in one of two directions. If you see people who aren't keeping these mitzvot, then you can feel disgust and you can feel anger and you can even feel hate, he says, toward them. Because you love the Torah so much, because you love mitzvot and you love God and you love this tradition. That's how Reish Lakish related to God and related to others when he was a robber. Rabbi Yochanan taught him, instead of seeing and focusing on the ones who are transgressing the commandments, instead, let's shift Reish Lakish and focus on the positives. Let's hone in on those who are keeping the commandments. Even amongst those who are transgressing, maybe there's something you can find and love. One little thing that you can hone in on and say, you know what? I love that you're doing that. This works extraordinarily well as a parent and a teacher. I see with my kids over and over again that they and students that they respond so much better to when you hone in on one little positive thing. It helps them to grow in a way in the direction that you'd like them to go. This, by the way, is part of this important verb here that lahadrich ha'olam be'imrei noam v'tov, in order to direct, like derech, lahadrich ha'olam, in order to direct the world in goodness. That is to say, if you want to move people, if you want to affect people in a positive way, the way to do it is by honing in on the things you love, not on the things you don't about these people, about your community, about your students, about your kids, about yourself even. That's what it means, according to the Kadusa Levi, to be under the wings of heaven. That is to say, you can serve God from beyond it. You don't need to be under the wings of the Shekhinah in order to serve God. You can do so from a place of anger. You can. You can love God so much that you can hate those who go against God's will. But to be under the wings of the Shekhinah, by the way, comes from the word shochein, which means to dwell, and it's the word for God's metaphorical presence that fills this world. And to be connected to that means to be connected to positivity, to be connected to others out of love and not hate. I think this is such an important perspective shift now. There's so much hate everywhere, um, that if we can take that and hone in on the reason that we feel anger is actually because we're feeling love for something else, and then to redirect and say, well, where is the positive what is the positive that I see in relation to this love? This person, maybe they don't keep all the commandments, but they really love Shabbat. This person, maybe, I don't know. I imagine it with my the best example I can give is my uh, kids, only because I was with them all day today. After they made a huge mess, there were two things that we could have done. We could have said, we could have screamed at them. We could have, even if we just said it in a stern way. I don't like that you've made a mess. Well, that doesn't get them to do what I need them to do. But instead, if I say, "Oh, I love that you picked up that car and you put it in the basket. Do you think you could do more of that?" That positive shift is going to make all the difference. We can do it with ourselves. Often we're very hard on ourselves. I don't like that I did that. I don't like that I spoke like that. I don't like that I acted like that. Instead, that little shift saying, I really valued when I did this. That's the way in order to direct the world from under the wings of the Shekhinah, instead of trying to direct it from a place of negativity. Okay. Yochev, I'm going to translate your comment. And please, if anybody else has comments, questions, concerns, feel free to put it in the chat. Yochev, you said I'm concerned that I might say something that will offend the other person by any word that I say, even though I have no intention of offending. The way the other listens can be the cause of some distance. Oh, that's the truth. Yes. The best thing to do is, in my opinion, silence. There's no beating silence. In Pirkei Avot, we say sayag lechochma shtika. Silence is a gate of wisdom, which is to say, wisdom on both ends, on your end and on the person's receiving it, is often bolstered by silence. Words can often complicate, real growth. Marvin, you said when an enemy attacks, it brings all factions that unite to mobilize and work together to combat and overcome hate and any other attacks. Yes, and I think I would add, based on this text, part of overcoming hate is not only rooting out, those call it enemies, but also then bringing in love, bringing in positivity, finding something that works and honing in on that. I'll give an example, albeit uh, more controversial than we usually get into in Hasidut. A very close friend of mine has a brother who lives in the West Bank in Israel. And he went to, this was just last week, he went to a Makolet, a little store, and the Palestinian shopkeeper who owns the store asked him if he would join him for tea in the back. And my friend's brother agreed and went to the back of the store. And this Palestinian shopkeeper really just wanted to get to know him. He said, if there's any chance of this working out, of us, not fighting, we need to know who each other are. And so he and my friend's brother, Jew, great guy, lives in the West Bank. I'm in a settlement over there. Uh, and this Palestinian man had a wonderful conversation. Now, on the way out, after getting to know each other for about a half hour or so, he walks out of the store, and there's a band a mob looking to find a Jew to hurt. At which point, that Palestinian shopkeeper comes back out and says, "It's not safe for you to go this way. Let me show you a different way." And he took him through the back and he got home safely. Now, Marvin, the reason I bring that up is because that is a great example about how we need to both root out hate and then replace it with positivity and love. We can hone in on that story. It's okay to, and to say, you know what? If we want to make the world go the direction we want it to go, not only do we need to, in your words, unite and mobilize to combat hate, but we need to also hone in on those positive things. When we do that, we can create, I think, um, a lasting peace, and we can create true change in the world. It's twofold. You can't just end with the characteristics of a gazlan, of a thief and a robber, one of hate, one of animosity, one of anger. Rabbi Yochanan says, "What good have I done for you, Reish Lakish? Is that I've taught you how to see the positive in people, in yourself. You need to, that needs to be the next step, or else the world is going to, and you, whoever you're trying to get to change, your kids, your students, your friends, um, it's not going to work as well as if you hone in on the positives too." Okay, Yochev, I'll translate your last two comments. Yochev, it's so complicated. Controlling some instinct or action, Yetzer Hara, and transforming the Yetzer Hara with the help of God. Then you said, "Thanks for the Torah, the sages and the rabbis who help us on this journey. Grateful for our teachings. May the gates of wisdom remain open to us, and let us always pass through them. Amen." Yochev, thank you for that beautiful prayer. Okay, Mom, you said it's complicated even more when one person judges someone else's behavior as hateful, yet that hater is behaving from a premise that what they are doing is out of love. Yes, that gets us into uh, another Mishnah from Pirkei Avot, Danit Chavero B'Kaf Zchut. You should judge others with, in the light of merit, literally a spoonful of merit. That is to say, in the best light possible. Um, so when somebody's giving us some kind of critique and we see it as hate, can we give them the benefit of the doubt that it's coming from a place of love? That's very hard to do, which is why it's in Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot, ethics of our ancestors, doesn't give us advice of how to do things that are easy. It's hard to allow that possibility that somebody who appears to be expressing words or behavior that are rooted in hate, might not be doing so. They might be doing so really out of a place of love. I know that happens. That's happened with me with critique in the past, feeling like, feeling upset, feeling angry at it, but really knowing that it's coming from a place of love. Okay. If there are no more questions, I'll leave you with this blessing that this week we remember, if we're feeling angry or upset at ourselves, especially, that to redirect your thoughts from under the wings of the Shekhinah, under the wings of that dwelling force that is God, which according to the Kadusa Levi means focusing on the goodness, focusing on kindness, focusing on the love, instead of focusing on the negativity. All right, everybody. Marvin, thank you for your comments. I'll what can I say? We could talk about Israelis and Palestinians for a long time, but we'll end with that comment. We need to both pray. We need to both pray and find ways to support efforts for peace. Yes, and this is a great way to do so. Just a reminder that we can indeed find something positive to hone in on, instead of always the negative. All right, everybody. Shavua Tov. Have a wonderful week.